There we are. Now we're live. I wasn't sure. Welcome, everyone. Simulation Talk 175. What's up, Kirsten? What's up, Devin, brother? Luis, Mikel, good morning to you, sir. How's Europe doing this morning? Narek. Remind me, where are you from, Narek? It's a really cool name. True Me is in the house on TikTok. How are you? Happy New Day or happy end of the day for us. Good to have you with us. Snowfall. Yesterday we cleared everything from Big Bear. Another snow started there today because this weekend we're going to be shooting for the film. How do you read that? Korea 80. How you doing, guys? Okay, I'm excited to jump into today. I think we're going to do another Jinky today. Last time it was a success. People liked it. Thank you so much for the love, guys. I can do one more Jinky. Romania. I've been to Romania. Welcome, welcome. Indeed, New Day in Romania. Blessing, kindness, gratitude, love, and light to all. Could not agree with all of that. Thank you so much. More. Thank you so much. I am drinking this day trip. It's just a CBD trip. CBD drink. McDonald. Oh my god. Wait, why is it McDonald? Oh, McRae. Got it. See, the thing is that at night my dyslexia gets so bad that unless it's like exactly what I'm reading, it's not what I'm reading. Born and raised Glendale, California, but it's a common Armenian name. Oh, I didn't think of that. It is. Awesome, brother. Wait, did we talk before? I think we have, right? You said you live in Glendale, or am I confusing you with someone else? Light Spirit Body, how are you? We'll let a few more people to arrive, and then we'll dive in. Today was a very high energy day. There's a lot of manifestation power today. Simulation talk indeed. Metal. Jurgen. Watch the trailer. Emails back and forth. Wait. Oh, watch it 3 times while writing a theme song for the film. Aaron is a master. Yeah, Aaron is very, very good. We're very excited about the new stuff that we're going to be shooting on Saturday. There's a lot of big things coming up, guys. I've been working quite a bit. Well, a lot of people have been working on this film. David Carter has been one of the most hardworking people around this. And there's quite a few other people that are contributing a lot of their time to building something truly incredible for all of us, and played my part. So I'm very excited to share some new things that are coming up. It's going to be a lot of moving parts to everything, and it's very exciting times. What simulation am I referring to? So this channel, one second. So this channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. So our simulation, the sliver of reality we call our physical universe, and it is a subset of a much larger space to which I'm claiming I have found proof that we're a part of. I think this sentence made sense. I think it did. And we meet here almost every single day to discuss the discovery, the implications, as well as other topics like science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. So I hope this clarifies it. You can watch my videos on my channels about it. You can also check the YouTube channel, which is where most of the content lives. It's Dango Thoughts, Dango Thoughts. We're shooting a movie about it. You can actually watch the trailer there. I believe, regardless if we might be in a simulation, that this is still considered reality. Yes, in fact, this is a common misconception. The word simulation does not mean not real, not at all. So you're absolutely right. The word simulation simply means computationally or digitally rendered, but it does not make it fake or not real. In fact, if the world at bottom is computational, which it is, then simulation simply means a sliver of reality, a slice of much larger reality. So you're spot on. Good morning, my Brighton. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you rejoined, Narek. Good to have you. Yeah, it'll be great. Well, Aaron knows about you. Listen to his stuff, and we can keep the conversation going. Eventually, it falls on him, but well, the way of the Dow. You think we are digital? Yes. At bottom, everything is. But with one caveat that it's not what we think it is. So digital does not mean less than. The only reason that we think of digital as, I guess, less real or somehow more technical or robotic or soulless or any other ideas we might have about that word is because of a misconception that we've developed over the years where we confused discovering computation with inventing computation. A lot of people believe that we invented it. We did not. We discovered the fact that computation is possible, not computers, but computation itself, the abstraction itself. And as we went along, it became clear to at least the people who are part of the development of these things, it became clear that it's just its own thing that we stumbled upon. And depending on who you ask, of course, but there will be there's a whole field of physics called information physics that basically postulates that at bottom, behind the laws of physics, there must be computation, there must be some digital space because it's a much more universal thing. And in some episodes, we are diving to some degree into the details of why that is and what that means. Today, we might not go in that direction, but in general, that's basically the claim that at bottom, things must be digital because whatever it is, whatever computation is at large, is a much more universal function, and it's demonstrably true. So we must be digital at bottom because it's a much more rational way of painting the world. And no, it is not a quirk of us happen to be living in a time where the most new things that we have is computers. So we think of everything in terms of computation. That it would not be an accurate representation of the situation. It is a parochial mistake that we made, a local mistake we made by imagining the computation is something that humans made. Computation is something that humans discovered. And that's an important part of it. Laszlo, how are you, my brother? Let me send you an invite. Simulation does not need to be redefined. Simulation needs to be re-explained because the movie The Matrix did a lot of incredible things in the world, but one of the things it did, it created a link between the word simulation or matrix with the word prison or locked or trapped or need to get out of, which of course is not the case at all. There's nothing to escape because it's the equivalent of wanting to escape the universe. It's just where we live. It's our home. How are you, brother?
Hey, hey. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn off the oven that is making all these beeps. So Laszlo here is a collaborator of mine. Laszlo is an award-winning game developer and a software engineer, and he's been the latest stuff in his development. He's been working in the VR space for a long time. He's one of the OGs of the VR space, and he reached out, and since then has been helping me tremendously to both think about some of the theoretical frameworks around this stuff, but also help me develop some things. And recently we've been working on trying to figure out how the Mandelbrot set, which is one of these beautiful fractals that you guys see if you're not familiar, you can just search the Mandelbrot set, and we were trying to see how we can map it on potential infinite reality creation engine. So no biggie. And Laszlo and I, and with Carter as well, we've been working on some ideas of how to do it. And Laszlo is he's the main mind because he's actually playing with it and developing it and thinking about how to work. So that's the context of, I believe, today's conversation, because I think you wanted to talk about some potential new developments, Laszlo?
Yeah, possibly. It's getting pretty late here.
Well,
I do have to get up in the morning, so I don't know how long I can stay on.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely quite a few things to discuss. Actually, I probably want to have maybe a longer discussion. I don't know if tomorrow or something would work better. But yeah, I just kind of have to get up pretty early. So
let's jump. Let's just jump on it tomorrow. No problem at all.
Cool. But I did want to. I did see some people talking about in the Discord too, as far as maybe just one thing before I jump off. And congrats on the interview, by the way, too. You nailed it, as I said.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Yeah, it was a fun interview. Yesterday, I did my first official TV, I guess, news network interview. I've never done that before. That was awesome. Yeah.
So did they reach out to you, or how did that come about?
Yeah. I don't reach out to anyone. They reached out to me.
Right.
I guess it got big enough. I don't know. I mean, usually when a news network reaches out, it means that it's really out there. But I guess it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, they were asking some pretty good questions, so that's pretty cool. Did they ask how you came about the discovery?
We didn't have really a lot of time. I have to say that for a 20-minute segment, the guy did incredible work. He's a really good interviewer, so he was really good at what he does. So yeah, I can't say I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't know what to expect, but I was just, I guess, very happy that that was the situation, because it was someone who was truly open and interested and asked all the right questions.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Nice work. As far as the Mandelbrot stuff, sorry, you gonna say something?
No.
So I don't want to probably get into like the update stuff right now. It's a little too technical, but I guess maybe just one question before I jump off. I saw some people in Discord talking about the Terence McKenna's time wave zero stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe that would be just a quick jumping off point. Would be like, what are your thoughts on that? And how that could relate to the fractal stuff, or even the Mandelbrot, or does it, or is it
I don't know. I think that like I always say, for me, I think sometimes people, well, again, for me personally, right? People are interested in all kinds of things. Terence was one of my heroes. He's by far, I think, one of the most underestimated minds in history. I know he was celebrated by many, but I don't think enough people know who he was, and it's very unfortunate. And if I have anything to do with it, I will make sure that it's much more known. The Time Wave Zero was a little confusing because I do know that he kind of made some things kind of match out of nowhere. As far as go to Discord, people postulate all kinds of things, and I'm interested in the practical, which sounds a little weird considering the level of claim and the craziness of it. But I'm interested in what can we test, what can we, Time Wave Zero seems to be, I don't know, it seems a little bit too vague in terms of how do we really measure novelty and how do we measure its density, because depending on how you look at it, you can amplify and emphasize novelty in different times, because that's what Time Wave Zero was technically measuring. It was basically a map of time measuring novelty as it grows in the universe. So a universe is a novelty preserving and inducing machine, according to Terence. That's what he thought it was, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. It's just that in terms of, and then he used a mathematical model also based on the I Ching, on the 64 hexagrams, and he worked with a mathematician, and then they mapped the time wave on history, and they found that, according to them, they found that history follows this trajectory of novelty. One idea that I do really like from this whole way of thinking is that he saw time not just circular, but as a spiral. And basically, just like on a record that you're kind of spiraling in and in and in and in, right? Time basically repeats itself faster. So the same wiggles of novelty that happened in a 40-year period repeat themselves in a 10-year period, like a shorter version of the same, and then in a 5-year period, but it's repeating the same, I guess, track. It just unfolds in a different way. So an example that it was giving is that sometimes in your day you might live through the fall of the Roman Empire, like literally, because it's happening in this fractal level where when it passes across you in time in a higher dimension, the wiggle of the novelty will express itself in your life in like 5 minutes, and it will be like a very dramatic moment, right? It was like the fall of the entire process of the fall of the Roman Empire somehow unfolds in your life, and the emotional tapestry inside of you is playing the same music that the entire fall of the Roman Empire did in the period that it took it to do. And I really like this idea because it does make sense to some degree. So all time kind of happens at the same time. And it connects you to everything else in history and the history of the universe, both from the beginning of time to the end of time. There's something very poetic and also to some degree something that rings true. That's the thing that I would really emphasize on that. But again, if you ask me like, what do people think about? What do I think about this thing that people postulate or that thing that people? I'm again. There's infinite number of theories, so I'm interested in what can we test for, because
Right.
yeah, that's
No,
all.
the only reason I brought that up is because I just kind of was thinking how it could be related to the Mandelbrot.
It might.
Sort of that
It
fractal
might.
sense behind it.
If
And
we can
like you
show
say,
how,
I know
yeah.
people postulate stuff all the time. I just wanted to put it out there as a cool discussion point.
It is a
Because
cool
I know you're a
discussion.
big fan of Terence as
Huge
well.
fan of
And it's
Terence.
just, I guess the more I've been looking into this kind of fractal stuff myself, the more I like a lot of what you said there. It's just like another aspect of like reality that can be mapped onto it. Novelty is just like one piece of it, like we were talking about, like audio or like world construction, or it just kind of the further you look, the more it kind of seems to correlate, map onto a lot of things. And so, and time, I think, is somehow related as well. That's another discussion I want to have with you at some point, is possibly, that being part of the z-axis. So something I've been thinking about there as well.
Yeah, how that unfolds over time. So like expressed as it unfolds over time, for sure. One thing I will say before you jump off, I know, and I appreciate you making the time. I know I told you way earlier, just everything gets in the way. So I really appreciate you, brothers.
I'm a night owl, so
Yeah, no, I know, but
I have to get up earlier tomorrow than usual, but I'm always up.
Sure.
Late, so no worries.
But one thing I will point out, and this might be to some degree pretty clear to people like you that have to develop very technical things, but maybe even people like you sometimes also forget it. And it's nice to remind that maps will always be missing something because they're not the territory, right? And I think sometimes people forget that, and then they're looking for an exact representation of something.
Yeah.
And that, I think, gets everybody in trouble because they start arguing about certain things that are just not, they're the wrong thing to point out. Like, we know that the map as it appears, the two-dimensional regular map that we see of the world, we know it's not to scale, but it's not just not to scale, it's not to the right ratio of sizes of the continents and everything else. That's not, I've seen a video somewhere and I was like, dude, people are where they say it's a conspiracy because they want to minimize certain countries and to make other countries look bigger. It's like Jesus Christ. But basically, the reason, to anybody who doesn't know, the reason, yeah, but the reason that's the case to anybody who doesn't know, it's because it's a two-dimensional representation of of something that is in 3 dimensions. So if you project 2 dimensions onto 3 dimensions into 2 dimensions, you will always lose information by definition. That's how it works. So you would have to let go of something to get something work. So what the map that we know of, most of us retains, is, I think it has to do with the longitude and the exact where the thing appears as it kind of goes around the Earth. But there is a map that you can find that is 2 dimensional that retains the shapes and the exact size ratios of the continents and countries, but something else is being lost. I forget what it is, but there's like a bunch of different maps for whatever it is that you're trying to do. So the reason that it's relevant to the question about time, for example, time might be much more complex than we realize. It's just that the map we're using to think about it, for example, in linear terms, people, sometimes there's this big argument. It's like, time is linear. No, time can't be linear. Well, it's like, I think it's kind of like the map. Like, you can map the time linearly to talk about events happening one after another. That makes sense. But if you're looking for finding something like maybe patterns, kind of like what Terence found, I don't know if it's true, but let's say it's true. So then you want to map it differently because you want to see a relationship through that. So because you can't map something on 4D, we don't know how to do something like that. We don't know how to create 4D objects. But if we want to map,
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, no, you don't know. No, I don't mean like in the sense of like, no, we don't know how to do that. Like we don't. I'm talking about like spatial dimensions, for spatial dimensions, not like some other forms of potential dimensions that we can talk about. Talking about, we don't know how to create 4-dimensional space time. We don't know how to do that. So because of that, something has to give, and I think that's one of these instances where if we map time in a circular way, like the Mayans did, or in a spiral way, like Terence did, we will get different ways to see real relationships that time has with itself in higher dimensions, and none of them is incorrect. It's just a different emphasis for a particular reason that you're trying to do something. That being said, there's also the truth of the matter, right? So it might be true, might not be true. But one thing, here's what I would say about Terence in general, which is why he is such a huge influence on me and such a hero of mine. It's not because he was always right. He definitely wasn't. But this was one of his greatnesses also, that he was very open about the fact that he's exploring domains that most people don't in a serious way. And this ability to take your own representation of the world, almost like a take a loan on your own ability to go in a particular direction that might not pan out. But it's okay. But in order for it to even potentially pan out, you have to take it seriously. You have to believe that it's absolutely true, or maybe absolutely true, up to a certain point, because without that attitude about it, you won't be able to actually see the potential of it unfolding as it is. It's almost like your psyche will give out, or give up on it too early. This is why it's always funny to me how people sometimes argue about the different theories in physics. Is like, how is that clear to you that these are just useful representations and not the territory, obviously, so we just take, and sometimes like the stuff that I'm saying, right, and I'm taking a loan. Like for me, I'm convinced. Nico, how are you, my brother? I'm not asking anybody else to be convinced, but I have to be certain about it, to the extent that sometimes makes some people uncomfortable, because I won't be able to see its true potential if I'm not certain of it. But I'm certain of it in a way that if certain kinds of evidence will come into the picture, they will simply nullify the possibility of it even potentially being true. I'll drop it in a heartbeat. I'm not married to it be the case. At the moment, it's the best explanation I can come up with what I think it is. So I think we should learn to think more like multidimensionally like this. Now, again, I know that with you, I'm preaching to the choir. In order to be a really good software engineer and a developer, especially game developer, you have to have this ability of everything I'm describing. So I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're one of the best people in the world at it. But I guess I'm speaking more in generalities, and I do want to encourage more people to think in these ways, to basically have the confidence of your own imagination and play with it, but at the same time, don't get too caught up in your own ideas, because it's this is why the criticisms of Terence, they're kind of silly, and at the same time, these well, I guess criticisms in both directions. That he, on the one hand, that he didn't really join the full spectrum of we believe we are all descendants from some other star seeds, so that was hurled at him from one side of the of the camps, and then on the other side, he was criticized for being not scientific enough and being too open-headed. I think we should be able to play this game, and we should be a little bit more give each other a little bit more grace, and understand that we want to play with these wild ideas, but we also want to tie them to something actionable at a certain point.
Yeah, totally agree. Love it. Yeah, that's definitely kind of something that's been just ringing true in my mind. Trying to, it's sort of a North Star, or like a goalpost as far as like researching this Mandelbrot thing specifically. Always trying to kind of bring it back to that simplicity, because like you said, there's like a billion different directions you can kind of layer all these different parameters, and but I really like what you said, is just as far as like narrowing the focus and keeping it kind of within the parameters of just like the most simple basic form of it is possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's there's gold there.
Yeah, just a lot. It's like, well, specifically what I was saying, it was very specific. With the third dimension, all I was alluding to is that the building from the Mandelbrot set already being blown up, so to speak, to 3D, that's just that from the way that I saw that they're doing it, that's just a no-go from the get-go. Like there's no reason to continue, because it has to first go back to 2D, has to. And then because whatever it is that we're looking for will be expressed along the z-axis, but the second you already gave it some volume, you introduce bias, you introduce a random choice that according to what I saw them do, they don't have any random choices. It's just part of the logic of the system. It's just finding what is that part of the logic. That's what my point was. That'll be one of those like it's just a non-starter basically. But I mean, I'm also sensitive to the fact that you also created, you basically, instead of just so everybody understands what you didn't just go in like, oh, because you can probably download like, Mandelbrot set simulators, right? It's everywhere.
Sure.
But you didn't do that because of your expertise. You had the ability to go in and like look at the core of what it is. You created it basically from scratch. And then you created an environment that can also express that in a way that will allow us much more freedom to play with it. Because I know almost close to nothing about how to do that. And I don't even know how hard it is. I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard, or maybe it was, I don't know. But I was like, okay, I wanted to see how you go about that. But logically, that arbitrary choice, no matter, like there's no point of proceeding, because the second that you proceed that way, you will for sure not do the thing that they showed me that we're doing. We might be doing something else, but it won't be that. And then it's just, there's no reason to waste time on that. That's all.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's always good to kind of, like I said, that's why I'm coming back to the North Star.
Yeah. But you have no idea how much I appreciate you. It's the amount of work that you put into this and the way that you jumped into it. I'm so excited to finally, first of all, see what we can talk about in terms of potential progress, but also moving forward. If Carter is right about being able to register the code through these sensors, I mean, we can start really playing with the stuff that you and I were kind of talking about, or at least seeing how this can map onto that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, super excited.
Well, I'll let you sleep. I feel terrible. I know you have to wake up super early.
Oh no, man, no worries. Okay. Like I said, I'm a night owl.
Okay. As long as you, I don't want you to feel like you have
to get to sleep at a normal.
Sure. If you just doze off on me, I won't be mad.
But no, I definitely want to. We'll have a deeper discussion on this. I think the timing is interesting too, and there's definitely some other questions I want to ask you as well, as far as like narrowing it back to the parameters. What you're seeing might. I want to throw a couple of ideas at you and see if anything resonates with you.
Please.
So, but it'll take a little bit more time to dive into that.
Sure.
It gets pretty technical.
Yeah, man. And also to your question, Nico, well, I guess you can say Mandelbrot set meets the holographic theory, because eventually it would have to be holographic in nature in terms of like exactly the arrangement. But how we get there, I'm not so sure. There was this video and then a paper that I found that I shared with Laszlo and Carter. I don't know if I shared it with you, Nico. I think I have. With this woman that apparently studied the Mandelbrot set for like a decade, and she wrote this simple paper, but she basically found a region of the Mandelbrot set that was producing basically all the topological shapes that we have in our spacetime. I actually downloaded it here. I don't know if I can see it. You can probably see it on the screen. Hold on, let me open it.
Check that out. It's definitely interesting.
So it was close to the
paper.
Yeah, it was close to the needle. Wait, why is it not? What's happening? Hold on. Oh, there it is. It's just being a little slow.
The Buddha brat.
With the Buddha broad, baby. What is it?
Which is just a fun word to say.
It is a very funny. What is it doing? Oh my god.
But I don't know if you looked into that. The fractal woman who wrote that.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up the woman herself.
Yeah, I did a little digging into that, which is also another part of the discussion. I think she's definitely I checked out the paper with the black hole stuff. Is that what you're referring to?
No, black hole.
Yeah.
Oh, black hole. Black hole. Yeah. I heard black hole. I'm like, what is that?
Oh.
So this is
there's. Yeah, this is a very interesting theory. I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see if I can find it.
With the black hole.
So see, she found literally like celestial objects that just basically in the Mandelbrot set that basically matched a lot of our observations.
Like cosmological.
Cosmological. Right. Like you see a galaxy and then stuff with the Mandelbrot set. And then this was particularly interesting to me actually, because these formations are basically what's called gravitational lensing on the one of them is mirroring, one of them is not mirroring. So this is space, actual space. This is in the Mandelbrot set region. And you see it's basically the same galaxy.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and it passes through larger objects in front of us, and it basically creates gravitational lensing and kind of splits the image. And look at this. This was wild. So celestial objects and then stuff in the Mandelbrot set at the same time. I mean, it's not just visually similar. This is topologically similar. So it means that whatever the mathematics of its surface matches. I mean, that's some serious stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
And then she's
looking into that too. She's also done, apparently, it looks like she may as well be a software engineer.
Oh, she is? I actually don't know enough about her, yeah.
Yeah, I did a little digging. It's kind of related to some of the stuff I've done in the medical space, actually, with like imaging and MRI, CT, CAT scan, stuff like that, which also ties back into like volumetric rendering. Just a lot of, I don't know,
what's
overlap.
Were you guys using chaos theory for that?
For what specifically?
For the mapping in CT scans and all that?
Oh, no, just more for kind of unrelated to that, like the mathematics of it, but just more on the side of like rendering and getting more into like 4D and volumetric. Looking at some other pretty interesting stuff like quaternion math. Like I said, it gets pretty deep. So
it does get pretty deep. So to anybody who doesn't know, quaternions is basically they're 4-dimensional numbers. So it's a whole other number system, and the multiplication and division. Actually, also is it also addition and subtraction different? The rules of the addition and subtraction for the quaternions and octonions is also different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah, it's like,
quaternions and there's octonions, which are 8-dimensional numbers. Go figure that one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's yeah, it definitely gets pretty technical. But so that's kind of some stuff I've been looking at. Apparently, she's also been researching that, or is, yeah, I don't know, like super obsessed with the Mandelbrot set specifically. And I just thought it was interesting. Kind of had some uh, similar career stuff going on with like rendering and stuff. So I'm like, man, you should try to get her on your podcast.
Is she still? So she's still around?
I believe so. Yeah,
Lori. Oh, somebody asked what book is this, Carol? It's not a book. It's a short research paper that a woman by the name of Lorianne Gardy wrote, and it's called "The Mandelbrot Set as a Quasi Black Hole." The title is right there. The Mandelbrot Set is a quasi black hole. Oh, I think it's reversed for TikTok. Okay.
Yeah, it's backwards for us.
Yeah,
but
for TikTok. Yeah, but not for YouTube.
The images, hopefully you guys could see. Yeah, it's like shows a lot of examples of like different pieces of the Mandelbrot set, and then like actual photographs of just our satellite imagery, I guess, right? Actual
the topology of it, yeah.
Yeah, and the formations of them, and some of it was just too similar.
Yeah. It's like literally one-on-one. And somebody asked me what is the best video to learn about the Mandelbrot set. In my opinion, it's this one.
Yeah, you posted a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one because it really walks you through like from A to Z, literally. I didn't think of that. That's really funny. This is I'm gonna post it on YouTube, but it's basically if you just YouTube Numberphile. Numberphile is a YouTube channel that educates about mathematics, all math. Numberphile, the Mandelbrot set, and you should. And I posted it on YouTube. On YouTube on the live. But sorry, I can't do it on TikTok. But just go to YouTube and do Numberphile Mandelbrot set. It will be this guy explaining it, and he goes from the beginning of what the logic of it is, and he kind of takes you step by step. It truly is like honestly, every time I watch this video, because the reason I like this video in particular, there's thousands of them, if not millions, explaining the Mandelbrot set. But this one in particular is so good because he really helps you develop this intuition step by step of what's going on. And when you finally start connecting the dots and understanding what is actually happening, what the Mandelbrot set is, every single time when he repeats that, when he takes the thing and he goes into zero and then he starts moving it and it starts becoming these shapes that are moving, I like literally like I have the little hairs in the back of my neck like stand up. Like it's so crazy. Like it's so amazing that math can express something.
Yeah, the orbitals, right?
The orbitals, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So not the Mandelbrot itself, but the orbitals are so incredible. And I always said, like, when you go into the bulbs, it really seems to me to be a good candidate for entanglement because they literally are just the same function expressing itself across the fractal. So you don't need, which is exactly what's happening with entanglement technically, because there's no communication happening between them. It's that they are literally the same object or they're the same function. So when you entangle them, you basically bring them into a state of operating out of the same function. So by default, if you do something to one, the other one will respond either in the opposite way or exactly in that way. So anyway, it's just it's interesting because yeah, physicists do resist this idea. And what?
The orbitals somehow have, I think me and Carter were talking about this the other day with as far as audio. There's like resonant harmonics in the orbitals too. So there's like music theory built into it and stuff. I haven't even barely.
I wish I would know more about music. It's the one thing that it truly like. I'm surrounded by such incredible musicians. I wish I would know more and understand more about music theory. It seems to be it truly is like an infinite space.
Yeah, it's like just as complicated as programming, man. I know about it, and it's like that's a deep rabbit hole.
Audio is I think the deepest rabbit hole. You know, you can even see it in film. Like when you learn editing, there is some learning curve, obviously, and you never stop learning, but you don't bottom out, but you kind of like, this is why like video software is like, it can be complex. Like in order to really know everything there is to know about Premiere, it takes a while.
Yeah.
It can do a lot more than people realize. But when I go and I sit with an audio guy and I just see their plugins,
Yeah.
I go, what universe are you from? Like, it's just like, holy shit. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Like, how deep that goes. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that you tweak this tiny thing, and there's so many parameters, so many dimensions along which musicians think. It's like, oh, make this sound a little bit more wet or a little bit more, and they know what they mean. It's like this
Yeah.
tiny changes to these sounds, and it changes the entire feel of wow.
Yeah.
You definitely
So
don't
many
have that
levels
much,
to it.
you don't have that level of dimensionality to video. You just don't.
Yeah. Man, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Absolutely right. Yeah, from octaves to timing to harmony to, it just goes on, and that's that might just be one plugin. It's like each plugin is almost like its own software suite. Some of them anyway.
You know what I'm talking about, right? When they have this like spaceship
Yeah.
thing that is open, and like every single thing, like a little bit more reverb. This makes it
Oh,
more.
yeah.
It's
I used
just
to work in studios, so
so
I've been experienced. I know like Pro Tools and some, the VSTs. They, and there's hundreds, thousands of them. Yeah, it's super interesting.
literally, yeah. I don't even know how to begin. I don't even know how to begin. There's so many options that, like, what gives you the idea of what should be what should be happening next? There's so many options. How do you even think
It's like
about that?
a painter, but like painter's like limited to at least like a color palette. But
Yeah.
with music, it's like almost like infinite color. You just there's infinite different choices.
McCried here saying,
somewhere.
I'm a music producer. Well, all I can say is amazing. I mean, I sat in studios many, many times because I was following a band, well, quite a few bands. And, sometimes I would accompany the band through the entire recording of an album. So I've been with them every single day in the studio recording, doing all the stuff. And then, and then you add all these layers, and then you do only guitars and all the licks and all that stuff, and then percussion, and then this and then that, and it'll bring vocals, and they do harmonies, and they do this, and oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, what? And the fact that somebody even one song and
do another one.
Yeah, and the fact is, and later they also have to think about how the album is going to work together, and then they have to think about, like, we're not even talking about mastering, which is all a whole other thing.
Right.
That's like, and then the fact that they can hear the difference, right? So sometimes you would have like a really good producer. So one of in that case it was Ethan, incredible producer and music producer, and he can spot, and I know obviously he's not alone, there's a lot of great producers, but he's just like sitting there and they listening to the song, and the song sounds like just perfect, amazing to me, right? And he's like, what's missing? We need to remove, I don't remember what it was, but like, we need to move some, I think he said remove some, we need to move the trumpets like 20% more like to the sides, and we need something else in the center. And then they found this very particular sound that was kind of like I think it was like almost like a Jimi Hendrix kind of like, riff, but they took only like mid sections from it, and then they put it in the middle, and when they played it, it was just perfect. And I was like, wow. Like, wow. Cool. Imagine the ear, the knowing that that's what goes there.
Spatialized audio is a whole nother thing I used to geek out on as well, like 3D audio as well. That's not really used too much in like music production, and not even really in film very much either. It's kind of almost like a lost art, I want to say, but it's sort of coming back because of VR, and that being like 3D and spatialized, right? So that's when it kind of sort of started coming back a bit. But man, there's some really interesting stuff that you can do with that, like spatialized audio. You can, like, even on like a cheap pair of headphones, you can have like, they've basically figured out a way to reverse engineer the way that sound directionality works.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like ray tracing with graphics, right? Like the way light bounces off of objects. Well, sound basically does the same thing, but your ears, it's kind of interesting to think about, like, how do you know when you hear something behind you compared to like when you hear it in front of you, right? To think about that, it's like, well, how does that really work? And it's sort of because your eyes, are like in one spot in the front of your head, so you only see what's in front of you. But your ears, you're getting stuff from behind you all around, right? So it's more of like
it's a
wider
360
aperture, I guess you could say.
well, it's a 360. It's just that because you technically also have, what is the name? Because we don't have 5 senses. We actually have echolocation. It's just not very developed. We have proprioception, which is the awareness of your body. It's a separate sense. You have other senses that we just don't know about, but because they're very subtle, but they are separate senses. They're not derivations of your regular senses. And one of them has to do with the ocular perception of sound from directions. I forget what it's called. And that's a separate like thing in the brain that is doing that. So that, I think that's, you maybe nailed it. That's maybe why sound is so, I mean, it's so much more infinite dimensional. There's only so many shades we can see, I guess, but sounds, we can discern a lot more types of sounds, most of us. And I do, and I actually don't know enough about, well, we have a lot of musicians here, I think, but they'll be able to tell us. Is it different? Because I thought that what you're describing, which is kind of like, the designing the sound of like exactly where it's coming from, I thought it's different, like it's another thing on top of that, that there's a what they call almost like where the sound belongs in the composition itself. So it's not necessarily it's going to come at you from a different direction when you hear it, is that it is positioned differently in in some auditory space between the other thing. And but the fact that you can hear that, to me, you know what it always felt like? It's, to me, like, there's somebody who doesn't know anything about that, like in terms of like how to even go about it. It always feels like the itch I cannot scratch, because sometimes, like it's somewhere in there and you just can't, like, where is it, right? And because sometimes I would have this problem where a sound that I recorded for some content would not exactly sound how I wanted it, and it would either be too hollow or be. And then if it's fixable, and I would take it to an audio expert, they'll be like, "Oh, I see what it is. You just need to bring it more to the center." But they don't mean just bring some kind of a dial to the center. They mean literally spatially, you need to bring this thing more to the center. I'm like, how do you do that? I was like, well, let me show you. I have a plugin for that. It's like it's so specific.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with frequencies, where different ranges of frequencies sit in the mix, so to speak, right? And so they can bring things to the front and center, and you can fade things out and also pan it, so that you can get like things that are wide and things that are narrow. And and that's not even the spatialized stuff at all. You're right. That's just more like music composition and mixing and mastering, really. And like equalizing, tuning, your parametric EQs, and your changing your frequencies and your cutoffs and your high pass filters and but spatialized audio is like another level on top of that. And like basically what they found is that the way that the sound hits your face, it wraps around your skin, actually helps you determine where things are coming from. So like, and the shape of your inner ear, like the way sound bounces around before it actually gets to your eardrum, like that is a big part of how you determine where sounds are coming from. So you can basically, long story short, reverse engineer that and play audio back that matches those different, like you can simulate or mock those positions, that directionality, and then you could fake it and make it sound like something's coming from behind you when it's not. They can do that.
So that's what you're describing right now is different than what they call AD audio, right? Where they do the hairdresser that kind of cuts you from all the way. That's just they take a mic that is 360 and then just record from different sides of the mic, right? That's different. So you're talking about like a trickery that basically makes it sound like it's behind you, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's just more like an advanced level of that. Even using like software algorithms, like where it can do like the reflection. So it can like, because it also has to do with like the way the audio, it's not just your ear and, your face, but also like how it bounces off the walls. And so there's like dampening and absorption, very similar to light, right? Like, certain, like you were saying about like the code not penetrating into the wall. That was one thing that I think Gallimore got wrong. It's like, no, the light does penetrate in the wall and some of that does come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound works the same way. some of it bounces right off the surface of the wall, but some of the sound penetrates into the wall and still comes back to you.
Yeah,
so
and
it's the same thing.
Yeah, and then the even the higher level of that, I did meet. I know this girl from back in the day, and her brother is a really good sound engineer, and he was I think he still is the sound engineer for Esta Stone. I don't know if you're familiar, but he plays a lot of these like very spiritual, big like guitar music, and it's very high notes. It's like a lot of ding ding, a lot of that. So when they go to a hall, every hall, they would have to re-engineer like the exact way how light bounces around the hall, even though most halls are kind of designed to have that, but still you need to match his exact music and the exact program they have for that evening. And they need to make sure that like literally sometimes they would have to open or close curtains somewhere in the room, or they would have to not just move speakers or play with the digital stuff. They have to literally change some of the stuff in the room, so not going to be some kind of a loss of sound in a particular fabric or things like this. It gets so intricate. It's just unbelievable. I don't.
Yeah, it's crazy how physical space plays into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and how it goes. That's why it really makes me feel like audio music, like really good music, it can truly like communicate between dimensions. Like I really believe that.
Yeah, agreed.
So
it's universal language. Sort of bypasses like symbols, and it's kind of, I've heard, what is it, emotion on tap, I've heard it referred to as.
Yeah, it goes directly to your emotions. That's true.
It kind of reminds me of what you were saying about like the entities being able to not really like download information, but they sort of hand it to you. Right? Music kind of works in that same way almost. It's like
you just know.
You don't need to have lyrics.
Yeah, you just know.
Just a vibe of a song can kind of imprint, and that it's a different like knowing. I don't know exactly what it is you're knowing, but it's maybe sparks some sort of emotion or a feeling, right?
Yeah. Well, or even sometimes know maybe something very specific. Who knows? Maybe advanced enough of music. Maybe it can communicate. I mean, it would make sense, because if you think about a language, most of us don't use it that way because we're not that great at it. But spoken language is also just air pressure, and it has the specificity of a word and how a language works and all that stuff. But you can say a lot by the tone of somebody's voice, which is how they sing the language. So I'm pretty sure that advanced enough of a language can probably be so advanced that even just by playing certain notes, you can communicate like actual specific information. I'm pretty sure that's possible.
Man. How does that relate to the Mandelbrot set? I don't know, but I definitely think
I mean, it has to connect in some way, yeah.
And I think I saw Nico saying, is it the mix of holographic theory and Mandelbrot? And I think yes, that's another thing that's part of that black hole, quasi black hole thing, is the theory of the holographic principle, with like data being kind of spread across the surface of the black hole, right? And that's exactly like the way that the Mandelbrot set kind of works with the shoreline. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, it should encapsulate somehow everything. Now we're trying to figure out how. And by the way, Don, I do see all your comments, so thank you for sharing all of this. She's saying this is why.
Jump off.
Oh yeah, go ahead, brother. Of course. And, get some rest.
I've been talking enough.
All right, brother. Much love.
Thanks again.
Of course. Good night.
See you guys.
So yeah, Don was saying this is why they cathedrals, they're designed to enhance music. That's very true. That is very true. Digital music has to flatten the sound. I can hear the difference. It does only in terms of well, you're right. First of all, the first thing it says that you're right, of course, that on vinyl you're gonna have a lot more information possible because it's analog. But I think with powerful enough of a computer, you can absolutely mimic that. If you're talking about compression, you don't have to compress. There is a way to make it sound just as vivid and realistic. And I can tell you this is also true in cameras. Like people say, well, you can't really achieve the look of like, an 8mm camera. It's not quite true. Yes, you can. You just got to know what you're doing. But yeah, there's definitely just beauty to these older technologies. And one day people are going to be talking about what we have now as these older technologies, and they're going to be reminiscing and feeling like this is the nostalgic thing. So it's just the nature of the game. Formal music was tone. Yeah. But again, I'm always looking to the future. Like I love that we have reverence for the past and uh, the connection to the present moment. But I love having my gaze into the future. There's something very exciting about that. I think to some degree the future is being demonized a little bit recently, and it's very sad to me because the future is where we're going. So we should be excited about it. There's the stuff that is about to evolve is not going to be worse than what we have. It's going to be better than what we have. Um, Commodore 64, absolutely. Okay, so I think we'll dive into one gene key because recently we had some. In the last time we did it, people liked it, so we'll do one. By the way, I saw everybody. Ebony, how are you? So good to have you with us. Sofa King, I see you. Mikael, I saw you guys' comments. I was just, on a roll with Laszlo, and I couldn't really comment too much. I'm glad you guys are here. All the regs, Mark, how are you? Kinetesium. Wait. Kinetesium. Cathedral cathode. That's cool. How are you? How are you, Ebony? Good to see you. Mikael. I saw them live 2 months ago in Copenhagen. Who? Wait. Who are we talking about? While we get on that, Nico, the past is known while the future is unknown for now. Mile markers in interesting. Okay, so let's dive into. I was trying to listen to a few gene keys, to see what resonates with me and what works. But it is. Oh wait, I didn't write what the gene key itself is. Oh, it is of. Hold on. Don't go anywhere.
34th gene key. The beauty of the beast.
Oh, the beauty of the beast. I couldn't remember. And we're back. Luckily, it didn't. Okay, so the 34th gene key. I couldn't remember what it was actually called. It's the 34th gene key is the gene key of the beauty of the beast. If you're not familiar with the gene keys, you should look it up because I can't re-summarize everything. But we're gonna do a short dive into it. What's up, Kit Kat? How are you, Alex? Good to see you. Music is a frequency, mathematics expressed through sound waves. Correct. A band we should check out, apparently, which I will after the stream. I love music. Oh, wait. Kineticism? Oh, Osric Tentacle. That sounds very interesting. Let's see. It sounds like one of these like Eastern European bands. Is it Western European bands? Human design. So in this case, it's not human design, it's the gene keys, but it is a deeper part of the human design, I guess. So the 64th gene key is the gene key of the beauty of the beast. And I'm just going to remind you that basically every gene key has a shadow, a gift, and a siddhi. Siddhi spelled Siddhi, or Y? No, I, which is basically kind of like the gate to the heaven version of whatever that is. What's interesting about the 64th gene key, it is particular in a way that it's the only gene key that has a property that follows it from the shadow all the way to the siddhi, and that is the property of non-awareness. All the other gene keys, when you evolve in your frequency, so you go from the shadow to the gift to the siddhi, you develop more and more awareness of what it really is, and then it flowers into the ultimate version. For the 64th gene key, it is not the case, and I found it particularly interesting for some reason. I'm not even sure quite why, but basically there's no awareness through and through. So the shadow of the 64th gene key is force. So it's essentially where we start. Let's see if there's anything that I should address before we dive into this. British, of course they are. Cheat sheet. Basically, it sounds. I wish it would be a cheat sheet. It sounds like a lot more advanced and more complex, but it's a good way of thinking about it. So, the shadow is force, which as we can imagine, this is the the lower vibrational function that was evolving over time, that basically gave rise to everything. Which is, I think, it's also a perfect representation where it shows that the shadow is not what we would think of as evil or bad. It is a necessary part of development before we move to the next levels. Force is really how everything evolves. Without force, nothing evolves. The life force would be part of it. And so the difference there is the basic, well, I guess it's just a given, right? Force. So it's just the moving of energy in particular direction in order to make something else, and then something happens. I think the word in order really doesn't really belong in the shadow, because there's no aim or want or goal or awareness. So the gift of the 64th gene key is strength. So it's the evolved version of force, which is a targeted force, I guess, and also intentional and probably mindful. Strength is basically the retention of force, and then the targeting of force in a way that is more conscious and towards a goal. So it requires an agent that is aware of the function of it. But again, this is why I found it interesting that there is no awareness to strength either. And what's interesting is that, at least what it says in the gene keys, if I remember correctly, the part of the gift is basically the extravagance of power. Of strength. For example, the Olympians, right? So like the archetype of the Olympian, somebody who's very fit, physically fit, people who are can do incredible things physically. But I guess maybe the reason that it makes sense that it wouldn't have awareness, because if it would be awareness, it would lend itself to vanity. It will become very vain of itself because of its abilities. And that can be mixed with other gene keys and probably also with vanity. But if it's purely coming from the 64th gift, it wouldn't be vain, because the strength will simply not be aware of what it's doing. So I think an example they're using there is the hero, right? Somebody who just kind of jumped and saved somebody. Very often, if you're going to praise them for it, they're going to feel very uncomfortable, truly, because they, as far as they were concerned, it just happened through them. It wasn't them. It's a strength that came through them. And that is actually also the gift. The more you can drop into that, the more strength you gain. And at the same time, you have less and less awareness of where it's actually coming from. So it's almost like the ultimate superpower. The city of the 64th gene key is, and I found this particularly interesting because it sounds like it's coming out of left field. Let's see if you can guess. What would you think would be the city? So logically, if we have force and then we have strength as the next octave, what would be the heaven octave? What would be the version of this gene key that you think it might be the city? See you, Mikael. Good to see you. So, oh, it wants me to solve a puzzle. There we go. Yeah, we're talking about the gene keys right now, faithful being. And we're talking about the 64th gene key. So, unity. Somebody guessed unity. Interesting. I would say that would fit. That would fit. But no, it is majesty. Harmony is also a good one. Unity, harmony. It's majesty. And I thought What a very specific word. And basically it's the majesty, it's the if you think about it, it's the ultimate, I guess what you would say, noble version of force that is just the most shiny object possible. It's something that belongs to a kingdom, like the royalty of something, but specifically majesty, because majesty is not just reserved to the majesty of some kind of a ruler or something. A majesty of something, it can apply to basically anything in existence, and it's just this quality of the royal property of whatever that is the majesty of that, right? And I just love it that that um that Paul, is it Paul? I will never remember. No, Richard. I don't know why I can't get his first name ever. I don't know. It just doesn't match him. Richard Rod. I don't know why. But anyways, I love that he really took his time, because it took him like 7 years to write this thing. And he was talking about it, how he really wanted to find all the right things. He never wanted to make something up. He always waited until it came to him. So I kind of trust him with that craft. And it is interesting that what came to him was majesty. I don't necessarily have like a deep analysis of that. There's how words, they have a particular imprint, they have a certain vibe, they have an essence. I don't think I've ever used the word majesty in my entire life. I don't know how many of you have, but I don't think I've ever used it, or at least not in a way that is, like like in a sentence. And it's such a specific word, and it means something so specific, and I just love it. It delivers itself so perfectly. It is the unit. It is, I guess, the ultimate version, because you can think of really all cities as the majesty of the shadow, right? Like I don't think he ever said that in the book, but like it's almost implied. Like all the cities, they are the majestic version of the shadow. Like they are the ultimate version of whatever that is. So if we think of something majestic, right? God would be, I would assume, majestic, right? It would be the ultimate point, the omega of the full expression, the most beautiful expression, the most perfect, the most inspiring, the most everything positive that you can possibly imagine. Divine discernment. Exactly. Definitely majestic as well. Your Majesty? I've never said Your Majesty. No, I never had to say that in my life. You needed to say Your Majesty. Perfection. There is so actually, funny enough, I don't remember what gene key it is, but there is a city that is perfection. I think, wasn't it 31st gene key? See, I'm already forgetting. But there was a gene key that the perfection is the city. I might have been, I forget the name of the gene key, but I think the shadow there was judgment, the gift was discernment, and the city was perfection. I might be wrong, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was that. And I found that one also particularly interesting. I don't remember what gene key it is. I should look it up. But basically, the judgment, right? The shadow expresses itself as the judgment, but it's because you have this the need, the it's a discernment, but it's a discernment with the need to be right. It's like, it's not only that I know that this is wrong, I am in the position of above, and I know what's wrong, and you're wrong. So there's this like egoic game. But the second you get over that, then it becomes discernment. And discernment is just the knowledge of what things actually are without the judgment. And that I found, and then a lot of leaders need that quality, like really good leaders. I don't remember what gene key it is, and I actually am not sure if the city was perfection. I gotta look it up, but because I remember perfection recently. At least in a playful way. Yeah, I guess maybe I have. Maybe you're right. I just can't recall at the moment. Does what include the shadows, Don? What do you mean? What are you asking about the shadows? does this include the shadows? What is this? Need to identify majestic. Need to identify? I'm not sure what you mean. So every gene key has a shadow, and it has a gift. That's when you transcend the shadow, it becomes the gift, and then it gets into the city, which is the highest version of that. Now, you have to go through the shadow. You cannot enter any other place. If you don't go through the shadow, you will never get to the gift, and you will definitely never get to the city, which is kind of interesting. I'm doing okay, Jake. Glad to have you today. Archangels are also warriors, for example. Okay. But warriors are not a shadow. The shadow is essentially the lowest vibrational version of that energetic imprint, of that essence. But the shadow has to be there because it's where everything came from. Everything came from the blackness of the universe, of existence, of the nothing. You have to go through there to become anything. Everyone has a twin person of seen deep in the shadow. Well, I would say we just all have our own shadow. What's the good book to start on these concepts? I mean, I think before you start with the book, there's just a whole book, which is where I'm taking this from. It's called The Gene Keys by Richard Rod. Look at me remembering his name. The Gene Keys. I would actually start with a conversation that the writer, this is how I heard about it. Well, no, it's not how I heard about it because people told me about it and I just ignored them. But then when I listened to this podcast, it made me want to go into the book. So if you go to Spotify, find the Rick Rubin podcast, who's the music producer, Rick Rubin, and on his podcast there was an episode with Richard Rod. So listen to that conversation. I would start there. Then you can go to the website, which I believe is just genekeys.com, and you can get a map. It's almost like this astrology thing, but I promise you it's not. I'm not big on all that kind of stuff, and it gives you some very interesting insights into who you are. And the book is just called The Gene Keys. Gene Keys. That's the book. Using a sword require integration of the shadows. Yes, but this is why I think that our ideas of the perception of warrior angels, this is a human concept. I don't actually think that's a real thing. Now, of course, I can be wrong, but it's something that tells me that a battle means that there's something that has the potential or a threat to you, so you have to battle them. But if you think that if the angel is actually representing God, then by definition, if God is who, or who it is what they are, then by definition, there's nothing that can challenge God, right? So there's no need for war or any of that stuff. So I think these concepts are very human to me. Amanda, I haven't seen you in forever. How are you? I'm talking like this now. Looking at the chart now. Yeah, it is very interesting, truly. You got it. The real Kelly Brook. I heard you talking about monks, warriors killing without anger. Yeah. So that actually does not require a shadow. Because you can have it's called noble killing. And it's basically without hating at all. It's when you realize you, on your part, did everything you could to prevent this from happening. Everything you could. And if you truly did that, which is rare, but if you really did and you're still stuck in a situation, well, I guess the universe brought you here, and preservation of life is above everything. So if it's between the person who simply there's no other way right now, which usually is not the case. I think it's more to point out that there's really always a way. But if there isn't, according to the teaching, yes, you can kill the other person, but you should do it without you should aspire to do it without any negative it's almost like when you kill an animal for food, right? You kind of have this like respect for the animal, like at least back in the day, that's how the most of the Native Americans used to do it. You have a respect for the animal, for the sustenance that it gives you. There is no battle. Your understanding is true to you, and I love it may differ from mine. Absolutely. July, I have to get to bed, core fam. I have jury duty in the morning. It's actually a turning point in my life because I am on the other side for a change. Take care, everyone. Sorry, can't. Oh, have a good night, Sofa King. Good night, my brother. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ebony. On the live. TikTok is crazy. Well, luckily we didn't get flagged yet. And then it will flag it. Wait, what? There's the one they are giving up for you to stay. I'm sure the monks progressed with the shadows. They had to learn to accept the act of killing. Yeah. Well, again, this doesn't happen very often, as you can probably imagine. We're talking about Shaolin monks, which is a very particular kind of monk, and they're usually not really venturing too far outside of what they're doing. So the chances of that happening, I guess it was more relevant to when China had real enemies like Japan invading and things like this. Okay. And at that, I think I will adjourn for today. It is after midnight for me, and I do have a pretty long day tomorrow. If you guys want to follow me across platforms, it will be Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram. It will be Goller Danny on X, LaserX83 on Twitch, which I highly hello to everyone from Twitch. What's up, JH? And Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DINGO Thoughts on YouTube. The YouTube also includes a membership program that includes Zoom calls with me, personal stuff from my life that will only live on YouTube members, weekly lives for members only, aside from the daily lives that we're doing here, and what else? And early access to all the content I'm putting out. And I'm working on more things to add to it. So go ahead, join either the membership or just follow YouTube itself. That's where the majority of my content lives. So I highly recommend to follow that and subscribe. And beyond that, we're also working on a film, as many of you know. If you can contribute to the film, we're still raising funds. I mean, we're working on it, but at the same time, we're also crowdfunding. And you can find a way to contribute to that through going to the GoFundMe link, which is under the description of the trailer on the YouTube channel, which you can find very easily. You can also follow the link tree in the description in my bio on TikTok if that's where you're at. That's it, guys. I deeply appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the incredible people that are doing also all the extra work around this project. Ebony, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. Irv, who else? Owl, are you with us here? No, I don't see him. Carter and Laszlo. And again, I know I'm forgetting people. Nico. There's just so many people that are putting, such good work. Ben, Devin, love you, brother. And of course, huge thank you to all the people that are part of this community that are showing up daily, semi-daily, or whenever they're showing up and they're making this community what it is. I love you, people. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And let's keep growing. Let's keep working on our core so we can be the best and the most useful part of this species and move everything forward in a beautiful way. So peace and love. See you tomorrow. Ciao. Have a good night, everyone.